There, I can hear you again. That was on my end, though.
Alfred. Hello. Al.
Jacob.
My goodness, we're going to have to... I can hear you. Things are... So, I have COVID. Apparently.
I'm actually getting a work call I gotta take. Can you give me
Go
a
ahead
minute?
and take that. While I figure out... I want to also route this audio. We're live. I'm going to bring the music back in for a second. He's taking a work call. I literally have COVID, so Joe is not here. So I'm in charge of all of this. Oh yeah, there it is. Welcome to Jacob V Weekly. Going really great so far. So, yes, we have our friend Al Ludwig here to spend some time with me today because I won't let Joe come over because I don't want to get him and his family sick. So we're going to talk about that, of course. We're also going to get all kinds of updates on the state of some current events here. And we're going to have some LaCroix while we do so. I've taken this opportunity. I've been mostly asymptomatic with the COVID thus far, and I've been taking the opportunity to give up diet soda again. It's my poison. I kind of have that problem. So, still got to have my bubbles. I got plenty of ice, and, we're going to make do. I haven't left the house since Sunday morning, and I'm kind of freaking out. Time is kind of blurring together, but we shall overcome. So, Al Ludwig is available to be on with us today, but we are going to get started. Oh. So I tested positive on Sunday. I took a rapid test up the block. $150, cash only, on site. We're assuming thusly that my wife has it, but surprisingly, my brother-in-law does not. He tested negative 5 days after. I would have already have been exposed, but I hadn't been tested yet. And we would just assume he would have had it, but he tested negative, and he's in the clear. So, because I drove him to work last week. It's crazy. It's weird who gets it and who doesn't get it. No real symptoms. Originally thought some fatigue, but I think that not having the caffeine, I think that may have attributed to some of that. Can't go anywhere. Haven't had my dogs in a car ride this whole time. That's my favorite thing. Work won't let me come back until after Martin Luther King Day, so that's going to be a long haul. Trying not to go crazy. Go through a lot of LaCroix. I keep forgetting I need to make a bathroom break intermission screen in OBS. Somebody has to remind me. Or make me one, for the love of God. Speaking of making things, I have a cousin who's a very talented animator and illustrator, and I asked her to make me this ridiculous picture of Anthony Fauci, and then she did, and so I tweeted it, and you can find it on my Twitter link there at the top of the stream. You know what? I did have a Diet Pepsi last night. I just realized I did have a Diet Pepsi last night, but that's not my thing. That's like, some people can kick hard drugs and still drink alcohol because it's so different to them or whatever. I didn't have that experience, but Diet Pepsi is not threatening my abstinence from Diet Coke. Diet Coke is the real enemy here. LaCroix in bulk. I think Al also subscribes to the LaCroix in bulk, but we get I get 24 of these Mammer Jammers for like $8. Oh my God. Yeah. I get I get 12 lime. There's 6 lemon. The lemon is really good, and then 6 grapefruit for like $8.50. So I order like 4 or 5 cases of that at a time, and that gets me through a couple days and saving a lot of money on the Diet Coke. And then I'm not eating the fast food that is always adjacent to the Diet Coke. So, that's been a part of the whole thing, and God is good. I'll raise that up in prayer. Oh, God. So one of my friends who tested positive alongside me because we were exposed at the same time in the same situation, he has symptoms. He has like a backache. He can't smell or taste anything. I can taste. I just had a whole Emo's pizza. I can taste. I'm fine. I'm quarantined until the 12th per the city and then through MLK Day for work. So I'm hoping I don't lose my sense of taste because it's really all I have left is whatever I can kind of melt cheese on around the house to kind of get through. Capitol was on lockdown. Al is our attorney friend who's also an election observer every election season. He's got a few election years of experience doing that. And so we had him on previously to talk about the election and whatnot. And so he reached out and as we were watching the news this week and so that's part of why we're meeting this evening. We were a couple days late because of all the COVID stuff and all the catching up you got to do there. So, we are going to talk about that. We were just this week, I think it was the 6th, been 2 days ago. The headline was pro-Trump protesters breach security in an attempt to halt or stall the Congress's review and validation of electoral votes. Later that evening, I believe they reconvened and were able to go ahead with that proceeding. Couple Trump staffers, including Betsy DeVos, have resigned, citing the toxic rhetoric of the time. So this is really exhausting stuff here that we've all been talking about for a couple of days. But just to put in your mind, if you're listening to this later, where in time this was recorded. I haven't even seen the latest. I've been down here in my dungeon on my second playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077 on my new Power Machine PC 5000. I'm doing a female corpo playthrough now with some of the different choices that I made around the first time. I've just hit 200 hours. I don't really like that they track that, but especially being in quarantine, it's been kind of easy. Fill some of those gaps. And there were some days where I really wasn't sleeping more than like 6 hours because there was gaming to be done. Oh, man. Last week, Joe and I talked about the stock scam that we feel like is kind of the new powerhouse economic kind of trend that we've noticed. And I'll probably ask for Al's insight on this because he's a smart dude. And that's kind of why I needed his backup this evening. The NASDAQ hitting 30,000 for the first time, I think it was, recently. And I think it'd be arrogant to assume that we are historically wealthy and not actually riding this wave of cheap credit and companies that never post profits but always climb in value. I was on a Zoom happy hour this afternoon with some former colleagues, and we were talking about this. I think I probably brought it up. I don't think they brought it up. But that, like, last week we were talking about, companies like Netflix and Uber that constantly lose money, or Sirius XM satellite radio, who historically constantly lose money, but they're always kind of growing or surviving because they're kind of riding the promise of the investment in that future. You know what I mean? Like AM, FM radio didn't really disappear the way satellite insinuated it was going to. And then you're behind a paywall. So as a creator, as a broadcaster, I would imagine it'd be nice to be on one of those platforms where you can move beyond a paywall, but I don't know, that's assuming a lot. That's assuming a lot of money is going to be following you there, I guess. So we want to get Al's take on that. we're going to talk to Al about me and my wife want to move to Wyoming. I'm sure you've all been seeing the Kanye West, Jeffree Star TikTok drama that apparently is nothing, just rumor mill. But a lot of famous people are buying up places in Wyoming. There's like 500,000 people that live in Wyoming. Kanye West, Jeffree Star, John Mayer. We were just talking to some friends of ours. We want to rescue elderly dogs on our ranch, our big palatial rural estate in Wyoming. We want a pig, probably 2. I really don't want the pig to be the only pig, and then it feels like it doesn't belong. So I'd want to have probably 2 pigs, litter mates if I can get them. I'd really love a cow. Any kind of cow, but maybe like a small, like one of those like Irish cows, you know what I mean? Like the Kerrygold butter cows. That would be so fun. But I would love any cow equally, and my wife loves cows. Definitely some goats. Again, I love the idea of having a goat, a small goat around, but I also don't want the goat to be the only goat. He's going to feel weird about being the only goat. So a couple of goats, I think, would be the estimate. She can maintain her position remotely. Now, we were talking about, well, what would I do? What are you going to do to make money while we're on our ranch after I'm done feeding all these animals every day? Because you know how a chore that's going to be. But, RuPaul has a ranch in Wyoming, and she leases out land for fracking. There's RuPaul's land, her estate there in Wyoming, big open space, and there's extra space. And so why not lease out some of that space for actual fracking? So that's happening. That's happening there. I am going to switch my headphones over so that I can really receive Alfred to his fullest need.
I'm here. I'm back. Sorry, the law never sleeps, apparently.
Alfred?
Also, I had wicked hiccups when I first got on, so I couldn't end up talking.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad. You know what? Because I got a lot of my notes and stuff kind of out of the way. Just, kind of housekeeping stuff around here. So, that reminds me, I need to copy and paste.
I can't tell if you're frozen or just ignoring me.
Oh, can you not hear me? Let me go over there. I'm going over there. This is what happens when you're doing your own thing.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
I think you're on a... We're on some weird delay. Are you hearing me respond to you?
I hear you just fine. You sound great.
You're like not moving.
No, why would I move? Where would I go? Do you want me to wave my hands? Oh, let me look at that.
No, you said something about I'll go over here. How many fingers am I holding up?
2.
Okay. It felt like for a minute where I was on like a 10-second time delay.
Jesus. Okay, what about now?
So anyway, sorry about that, man.
Man, you really can't hear me, can you?
Are we recording now? Should we?
Bro, we are so live. We have been live. I feel like you can't hear me.
I think we have a bad connection or something.
Brother, get out of my fucking Zoom and come back into my Zoom. You are fucking up my vibe.
I'm coming back.
Get out of my fucking Zoom. That was crazy. Like when people are trying to gaslight you? Watch this. Watch this shit. This is going to be wild. Watch this. It's going to be great. Okay, it could be me.
Does this feel better?
Man,
maybe let's try it without video.
Well, I don't need you to see me.
I don't need to see you.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how to get where I need to get though. Like, where am I in the window now?
Well, so like we
oh, here we go.
We fucked up your flow. Like,
no. The flow was. I mean, you took your call didn't help. No, this is good. We're good. Everything's great.
Is this the real start now? Like, you're gonna cut?
We've been on. No, It's live. I've been live for 47 minutes, Alfred.
No one wants to hear that.
No, they're good. This is great. So we were just getting warmed up on kind of some of the stuff that really I had a preview going for most of that 47 minutes of just letting people know that the stream was coming. So don't get upset. You can hear me?
I strongly recommend you cut out Yeah, I can hear you great. I strongly recommend you cut out like 38 of that 47 minutes, if not.
Well, no, in the
45
recording
of
won't be that
47.
long. The recording won't be that long. Just the live stream has been intact for that long.
Oh, people are actually watching you?
Honey.
Does that mean we need to be back on video?
No. I just took you off the thing.
I'll put it back on video.
I kept my video off, and you know what? That may be fine, because I could just pop you down here in the corner. And now I got you on my
I don't want to be the only one on video. That's not
No.
That's not going to work for me.
No, they can see.
It's all or nothing, baby.
They can see me, and they can see you. You want to be able to see me now?
Well, if I get seen, you get seen. I do like looking at you, Jake. You are an attractive man.
You can see me now?
I mean, I did just assume your gender, but
this is just,
I thought I knew it.
This is some boomer bullshit right here.
It actually did feel like it degraded really bad when you were on video.
Yeah. Okay, so I just turned my video back off.
Yeah, the sound is better.
Okay, I'm going to leave my video off. You have to get over it. You can turn your video on, though. It seemed like it was fine when it was yours.
No, I'm good. You just see the giant horsefly flying around my office.
Oh, God. You're right. We should cut all of this out. I mean, I did a lot of talking. I was really
taking a work call.
I was really good. I was talking that whole time you were gone. So listen, Alfred, we were talking about the Capitol being on lockdown a couple days ago.
Yeah, because holy shit.
Yeah. So legally speaking, can you just set me up? What is the significance to the average citizen? Go ahead and explain. And you can turn your video on if you want.
Like I said, it's all or nothing, baby. It's you.
Okay, great.
I'm not worth looking at. Yeah. But
I'm gonna throw this
to answer your actual question.
I'm gonna throw my Mac in the goddamn river. Is what I'm gonna do. I bought this whole PC because that Mac can't handle streaming a video.
Yeah, why are you using your Mac? I'm using my fucking Booyah rig.
No, well, here's the thing. The Mac is piped into my PC. Like, I have a video switcher, so I can switch between my different cameras, and one of those camera inputs is actually an output from my Mac's video card.
Do you have another? Well, what's your mic plugged into? Is it plugged?
My mic is plugged into the mixer, which is being controlled and recorded in the little behind the scenes here, folks. Which is being recorded into the Mac, but it's also being controlled by the PC via Ethernet, so I can control the levels and stuff. And then it's also being fed analog into one of the inputs in my video thing, so it's automatically synchronized to my video stream. And so that's the same rig I use for streaming when I'm gaming down here and stuff. And it's no problem for my new PC, but the Mac was really not having it.
I feel like it just degraded really badly.
I was just talking.
Am I on a delay? I feel like Zoom just kicked me back like 10 seconds.
I don't know. I wouldn't know if you were on a delay.
Am I are you hearing me live?
Yeah. I don't know how to tell. I don't know what's real.
Yeah, it's all a mystery. So anyway, Jake, audio visual problems aside, you asked a real question.
Yeah. So we were talking about while you were on your call there, we were talking here about just the significance of this week, and we were talking about how that was when the Capitol got stormed, and that was one of the things we wanted to talk about today. Just in your perspective, sort of the significance of that to average people.
Well, I mean, it's something that hasn't been done by anyone, certainly since 1814, when the British burned Washington. So that's in and of itself significant, right? I mean, think about the spectacle of individuals running the Confederate flag through the halls of Congress. I mean, that's the thing we just witnessed yesterday. That's the thing that happened. And I can't imagine what I would have thought had you told me this would happen at the end of Donald Trump's presidency, except maybe I would have said, of course, that's what's going to happen. But there's a couple things that I think are worth unpacking in the whole event. So number one, you had the President of the United States starting this event with a rally in which he effectively said, march down to the Capitol and fight. I'll be right there with you. After which he promptly got into his car and went, hid in his tent or whatever it was that he did. But within a span of minutes, thousands of people then did that, and there was functionally no, police presence that was warranted around the expected levels of crowds that you had there. So at the same time, all of this was very predictable. It seems like the law enforcement apparatus didn't predict it or willfully failed to prepare for it. It's one of those two things. We're learning that when the Capitol Police requested, help through the various government apparatuses, not only were they denied, but they were denied repeatedly, as was the Maryland National Guard, at least, denied the right to the ability to come in and assist with the situation. We're also learning that apparently the president ordered that the Capitol Police not engage with the protesters unless authorized specifically by the head of the Department of Homeland Security, who had told them not to do so. So you had an underprepared police force that was specifically ordered not to engage with any protesters. I'm using scare quotes when I say protesters here, who were, some of whom appeared to have, at a minimum, rolled over for the protesters, if not actively collaborated with them. In the ensuing chaos, the halls of Congress were invaded, shut down, shit was smeared on the walls, people pissed on Nancy Pelosi's desk, broke a bunch of windows, tore up a bunch of, tore down a couple memorials, did whatever it was that they did, walked in with zip ties, prepared to assault, I guess, whoever it was that they would find. Mike Pence and his family are trapped in the Capitol with this raging mob going around. There's inadequate police force. One police officer died in the aftermath of this attack. This insurrection is the only word you can use for it. So what does that mean to us? I mean, a lot of things and maybe nothing. In that, all of this was sadly predictable. As shocked as I am by it, I'm not at all surprised. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Like, of course this happened. They said they were going to do it. Donald Trump told them to do it, and they did it. And it's, anyone who didn't see it coming had their fingers in their ears or their head in the sand, or just wanted to believe something that wasn't true. But to get to the very legal points, I mean, there's any number of federal crimes that were committed, but I think it's important that at least one of them is textbook federal sedition. And I was going to do some research on this, but I got tied up at work. So unfortunately, that wasn't the legal research I was able to do today. But there is, like, people throw around sedition a lot, right? Like, it's a word that you hear all the time. This is actually legally sedition, which is,
Can you explain for me and I know for my listeners what that word means?
Well, I had the statute up in front of me a couple days ago, and I meant to.
We like statutes on this show. This is a show of statutes.
The element of the statute that I focused on when I was looking at it the other day was it's functionally to it's things like waging war against the government, or committing unrest with an attempt to shut down or impede the actions of government. There is zero question. It's on tape that these people went in. They came out screaming and cheering. We shut it down. That is the federal sedition statute. That is literally what it says. Is waging war, functionally waging war against the government of the United States, which I would also suggest the Constitution, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, says anyone who does that is ineligible to sit in any office, state or federal, without the approval in that individualized case of 2/3 of both houses of Congress. And we find out that at least 6 state legislators were involved in the invasion of the federal Capitol. So, what do you call this other than an insurrection? This is rebellion. It's insurrection. It's treason. It's sedition. It's all of those things. I mean,
and sedition means.
It literally means, among other things, taking physical action to impede the functioning of the government. the lawful functioning of the government.
Right.
And, regardless of what you think happened in the election, there is no question but that the congressional hearings to, meet their constitutional duty to certify the elections or not, as the case may be, was a legal function of this government. So, these people actively on tape, in their own words, committed sedition. Period. Donald Trump personally suborned that sedition. The president of the United States personally incited a mob to commit sedition against the government of the United States.
And I totally am with you. Can we, for the record, can you remind us kind of what he said when he said the things that did that?
Well, and I'll confess to have read the quotes and not have listened to whatever speech he gave. It's hard for me to listen to him. But my understanding is the words were something to the effect of, march to the Capitol and fight. I'll stand there with you. Like I said, after which he promptly waltzed off in his limo.
And, there are people that I'm aware of, that not that I know personally, but people that I'm aware of that went there for rallies this week. Like, there's this crazy lady I see on TikTok and stuff that sells hoodies, and she's all like, still Trump 2020, and like the election was rigged and Trump's actually going to be the president again or something. And so these are the kind of people that are usually just selling hoodies on Instagram and shit. You know what I mean?
And that's a perfectly legal activity with which we have no problem.
But then they actually went to Washington, dude.
Well, let me be clear about this, though. The rally itself, going and you hear the president rant and rave about, how the election was stolen from him, how it was rigged, perfectly legal, protected by the First Amendment. Absolutely,
it's legal for him to say that.
It's legal for it's irresponsible for him to say that it's a lie, but it's not. It's not at least in terms that I understand it, and a violation of any law. The First Amendment certainly protects the freedom of assembly. To the extent it's not an unlawful assembly, and that's, it depends on the location. But my understanding, based on very little, frankly, is that the gathering itself perfectly legal. They can go up to the steps of the Capitol and chant and yell at Congress. That's perfectly legal. That is no issue there. Cracking windows, knocking policemen on the head to break into the halls of Congress and shit on the floor. Well, you crossed the line. At that point,
did somebody really shit on the floor?
I don't know if they shat on the floor or they wiped it on the walls, but there was definitely feces involved.
There was feces in the Capitol?
There was feces in the Capitol.
Burn it down.
In the chapel of our democracy.
Okay, listen. I don't know about chapel.
I don't know what you call it.
Can you look up the word chapel for me?
It means church, I think.
And church means like a place of worship.
Right. Well, I'm Googling the definition of chapel.
Yeah, that's really what I'm asking you to do.
Okay, it's bigger than a chapel. A chapel is a small building.
See,
so it's more of a temple to democracy, if you will.
And a temple, is that like a structure that you think is dedicated in some way to a thing?
I think it depends on what creed you ascribe to, whether a dedication is strictly necessary. But typically, yes, most of the churches, temples, synagogues that I'm aware of are dedicated by some form of clergy in that given religion. And you could argue, that this was similarly. I'm sure it was a dedicated building when it was built. The cupola was built during the Civil War. Lincoln was told to stop building it. And he said, no, this is too important symbolically for our democracy, for the unity of our country. We need to have this completed. I'm not going to stop doing it. I mean, all the history, bad things have happened there. This isn't the first. I mean, there was a senator was almost beaten to death in the 1850s on the floor of the Senate.
By who? Who almost beat? Who beat that man?
I forget the name of the gentleman, the representative, the U.S. representative at the time, who beat him about the head and neck with a cane. And you gave him permanent injuries.
Oh my Jesus!
Dealt with for the rest of his life.
Oh
and then
my God!
He was censured and then returned by his slaveholding constituency back to the halls of Congress.
Lord.
Right. Well, I mean, so it's not like it's unprecedented that, everything that happens in the Capitol is good, but this is unprecedented. It's beyond the pale if you care about the rule of law, if you care about order, if you care about, any democratic values in this country. But I think the thing to me that's personally most striking is, and I'm hardly the first to have this hot take on things, but it's the disparity with which this crowd has been treated every time they do this, because this is like the 7th or 8th capital they've invaded with guns.
Yeah. So so it's safe to say these are similar folk that occupied that conservation
Michigan. Well, I mean,
whatever.
I don't know. I think the Bundys actually came out against Trump. So, in fairness, maybe there's a split within the Bundy clan. But I'm thinking more of the Michigan occupations earlier this summer during some of the lockdowns. In Washington and Oregon went through some similar things where, these right-wing militia groups effectively came and stormed the Capitol buildings of their state houses. But it's the same people. I mean, you may have had some of the same people in those exact protests, if you want to call them that, those insurrections, acting here. But what was most striking is, there's clearly a premeditation at high levels of the government to defang the police presence that was at the Capitol to allow this to happen. But even so, the deference with which these insurrectionists, this mob of extremists, let's call them terrorists because it's what they are, were treated compared to when black people marched down the streets of Washington asking to not be killed by police. You've seen the pictures, we all have, of the armed, they look like freaking SEAL Team 6, except there's 300 of them lined up on the steps of the Capitol based on the auspices of, black people having the audacity to ask not to be shot in the back. And you have this mob of, middle-aged white morons come and smash the windows, and they let them in. I mean, they take selfies with them. That really happened. Some of them fought, but they were clearly not they were not a unified force. And my favorite meme of this thing is, those of you who, ask where the cops were while this was happening, probably ask where, where's Hannah Montana, or where's Miley when Hannah Montana
Right.
It's exactly right.
Because so when you say church, you mean
you're stuck on this.
I'm fucking with you.
I'm hardly the first one to make the comparison of a religious institution or a religious building to the Capitol building. But I think it's a propos.
Yeah, I got a lot of irons in the fire. I'm producing this show on my own here.
I hear.
I'm putting.
You want me to just ramble? I can do that.
No, you're doing a great job. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I needed from you, because I've been kind of out of the loop. Because as I was telling our guests before you got with us that, I'm on my second playthrough of Cyberpunk. I'm doing a different backstory now.
Are you literally playing Cyberpunk as we're doing this podcast?
No. I'm not playing it right now. But I play a lot, and there's no windows in here. There's one window, but there's a window unit in it.
So I mean, you're looking at mine. I feel your pain.
Yeah, so it's like a casino. You know what I mean? It's like I could be anywhere right now.
Yeah, I'm in the attic, not the basement, but it's a very similar. I mean, this is my work office. It's my sometimes bedroom.
Yeah, I was working down here all day.
It's Corona for you right there.
Yeah.
By the way, this week's beer, Pipeworks.
Beer of the week, Pipeworks Pilsner, baby, premiums. Where's that from?
I believe it's Chicago beer. Yep. It's I'm looking for the actual brewery. Oh, it is Pipeworks. Yeah, Pipeworks in Chicago.
Beautiful.
So, what there's a couple things that are striking. I mean, this is a watershed moment where it's the first time more Republicans than not have decided to say things that aren't exactly nice about the president, which is about as far as they're ever going to go. But
sure,
there's a real divide in the Republican Party all of a sudden between those that are just all in on sedition, that just looked at this and said, yes, this is awesome. We keep going with this. This is what America is supposed to be. And those that, on the other hand, said, really, this isn't what we wanted. We just wanted to play at this game to keep power and, continue the money trough to already rich people. And I think the majority of Republicans fall into that second category of, they see the writing on the wall that this is not good for business at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And ultimately the business, they're thinking of is their own power. But, when the mob, when mob rule takes over, they're going to be against the wall like the rest of us. So I think there's a recognition in the Republican Party that this is the destruction of all order and civilization actually will take most of them down. There's some of them that hope to reap the whirlwind, in the words of Alexander Hamilton, that want to unleash it to ride it. But most of them, or at least a majority of them, see that this cannot be sustained, and that they have to now play act as though they never had anything to do with it, or at least that this is never what they meant. They never saw this coming, even though literally everybody saw it coming from a mile away.
Well, and that's the thing. It's because it was so shocking, but not surprising. Mm-hmm. And there's you know what I mean? And it's not often that you have a time where you have to draw a line between those two things specifically, because usually if it's surprising, it's going to be shocking, or if it's shocking, it's going to be surprising. But is it surprising because of the because we just didn't think it was possible to get that out of hand?
I think if anything was a surprise, it was the law enforcement reaction or non-reaction.
Lack thereof, yeah.
I mean, which, again, I wasn't surprised by, because I watched it happen in Michigan. I watched it happen in Washington. I watched it happen in Oregon. You saw it happen in Kenosha, where this kid murdered someone on the street and walked by the cops, and they didn't even question it.
Dude, you know what? I went to go check on Alex Jones the other day, because I love crazy. And he was on the phone with Mama Rittenhouse. No, with his mother.
With his mom, who is as big a piece of shit as anyone.
And not very eloquent. And
shocking.
They're raising money for his legal defense because it was all self-defense. And that's when I was like, oh, now I get why my wife doesn't think it's funny. Like, I think people like Alex Jones are funny. And my wife can't enjoy it. And
Alex Jones called the toddlers that got murdered crisis actors. I mean, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's where it goes really when you go down the pipeline with him. Well,
there's another thread we should explore, though, because you've seen it, I've seen it. People saying immediately with no evidence, "Oh, Antifa was behind this. This wasn't the Trump supporters who said they were going to go and support Trump and burn down the Capitol building and lynch Nancy Pelosi on the front lines, and that Trump said, please do this, and that were there and that had Trump flags." This must and can only be a left-wing element that must have infiltrated, and because our people can't act that way, it must have been Antifa. And they hinged on the fact that some of us, I was one of them, during some of the Black Lives Matter protests this summer, pointed out the fact, verifiable and verified, that there were, in fact, right-wing crisis actors going along with the Black Lives Matter protests, breaking windows and burning shit. Not to say that they were the only ones who were breaking windows and burning shit, but that they were definitely there. The Boogaloo Boys were there trying to start a conflict. So because
the Boogaloo Boys?
The Boogaloo Boys. You're familiar with the Boogaloo Boys.
No, I'm not.
Are you serious? So it's
no relation.
It's a 4chan thing, right? Like, you know what 4chan is.
That's where the real toxicity is. That's where the real venom is.
It's 8chan now, but yeah.
Or it's like 8chan or...
Yeah, 8chan's been shut down. See, I was an original Something Awful goon back before 4chan was a thing.
Well, I was a juggalo once, so I get it.
But it's Something Awful.
Hey, it's a Jeep thing.
They kicked the channers out because they were assholes, so I felt okay about it. But... It's Civil War II Electric Boogaloo. It became the joke. It's these motherfuckers wearing the Hawaiian shirts because they think it's hilarious, and there's a couple elements of this. Some of them are just straight up anarchists that want to burn everything down. Really aren't right wingers. They just want to start a bunch of shit because they're failures in life and want to destroy civilization because they figure it can't be any worse for them than it already is.
Now here's the thing: how big of the population is that portion?
I have no idea. I mean, it's big enough that it's a thing, but the internet amplifies a lot of very fringe groups with very small populations.
The thing. There was this guy that I used to know just from the music scene. He used to pop up at shows and guitar shops and stuff, and that I would be at, and we talk, and I'm not gonna say his name. We'll call him Mike, and uh, I thought Mike was a goofy dude, but I never really spent time talking to him because he wasn't a young lady, and that was more my priority at the time. And but he was really talented guy, very gifted musician. And then years later, we're still kind of in the same scene, and I see him around, but never really talk to him. And he turns into like a total Proud Boy, like flashing the OK sign as a white supremacist thing, and like he adapted, like he identified as a Western chauvinist.
Yeah, that's some bullshit. I remember when that first came out.
That thing. So he was one of those guys, and I was like,
right.
What?
Well, the Proud Boys I think the Proud Boys and the Blue Glue Boys, I think, are distinct groups. The Proud Boys are just straight up fascist, white supremacist racists. I mean, they are the Nazi youth. They're not even that young. They're the brown shirts, right? Like they're the expendable thug core of the Nazi order who is willing to go and do violence, and that's all they care about. You look at this opportunistically, again, because they're utter failures in life. That the only pleasure they can derive is from inflicting pain on others. So this is an opportunity to do that.
My thing is, how does Trump know about those guys?
Trump is Trump is a moron. Okay, he is a singularly untalented, stupid.
All right.
There's so many words I can use. I'm saying
but
because
that's where the question comes from: is how does he know about?
I'm about to say he has a superpower. And he knows how to read the weakness in people, and he knows how to exploit it, and he knows how to bring out people's insecurities in a way that he can manipulate. He has always been adept at reading the room and bullying people who could be bullied. It's why he hates people who can't. He doesn't want anyone who isn't useful to him to be a part of his life. He has no use for friends. He has no relationships in his life. He has tools that he can use because he knows how to twist the right nerves with the right people, and it's a superpower. I'm telling you, it's the one thing he's good at. He knows how to read the room. He read the room in America in 2015. He saw the huddled, y'all use Hillary Clinton's word, the deplorables. He saw what they wanted, and what they wanted was to hurt other people. And the cruelty is the point. It always has been the point. And it's sad how many people in this country have really thrown away all values and all conviction that they have in anything because they're on board with making sure someone else hurts.
So, and I totally echo a lot of those sentiments with you. That's totally how I feel. But I was also uncovering in my conversation with some former colleagues today that there are people that voted for Trump twice because they're single issue pro-life voters. And so what do you tell those people? Because those are not the those.
There's a rabbit hole. You want to go down this one?
Yeah, I do, baby. Okay. We got time. We're live, honey, girl.
Right,
no, so but listen to me. Is how? So we know that the people that are assuming that they're genuine in their intention, we are assuming the people that storm the Capitol are the kind of aggressive anarchist outsider types that you're talking about that maybe were engaged by some of this coincidentally right-wing rhetoric this time. And
I don't mean to paint every Trump voter, certainly, or even every Trump supporter as that. That is a component of Trump's support, but it is by no means every Republican voter. Like there's a lot of reasons people voted for Trump or against the Democrats that don't have anything to do with that. And some of them have some validity to them in more in other years than when Trump was on the ballot. But you asked an intriguing question about single issue voters, and that single issue being abortion.
Yeah.
The fact is, in 1968, on the sort of cusp of it's not fair to say the eve of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was in full swing by this point. But it was the eve of a lot of changes that had been derived by or sought by the civil rights movement, that were accomplished by the civil rights movement in the way that society treated the racial relations in this country. There were surveys taken, and there was a lot of scholarship on the right wing, the very, very right wing's not the right word, the fundamentalist Christian attitude in the Baptist church and other churches like it at the time, as to abortion. And you have a lot of church leaders, a lot of church scholars in the very, very, very conservative theological circles saying things like life does not exist until the child is born. Abortion was not an issue. It was not a thing that was on anyone's radar from a religious standpoint, from a pro-life standpoint, which you hear now. That evolved from 1968 very quickly in concert with when it became unacceptable to be a segregationist. So segregationism, which was the rump of slavery and advocating for slavery, became the pro-life movement because it was an easy dog whistle to say, I am in support of punishing certain people who engage in certain activities. The war on drugs is the other aspect of this that came out of that, when it became unfashionable or really just unworkable to punish people based on their race and their political views around race, as a matter of criminal sanction or as vigilante, hostility and violence. Those groups turned to the war on drugs, and they turned to the pro-life movement against abortion.
And so, is that all malicious? I know the common rhetoric is that a lot of that energy is, well, we want to have a safe place for our children to grow up, blah, blah, blah. But there's no way that they go to the extent that they do for that. I mean, how much credit do you give to people that say that it's to fuel this economy of prisons and
the war on drugs specifically? Yeah,
sure.
I mean, it's all about it. That's what it's all about. But Nixon, Atwater admitted in the 70s, admitted the war on drugs was about racial discrimination, was about using another means to target black people and hippies, essentially. You couldn't make being black illegal anymore. So you make something illegal that you can target black people for, because a lot of people were doing it. A lot of people smoke marijuana. A lot of people still smoke
cannabis,
marijuana.
Please.
Fair enough.
Marijuana that's not PC.
But you look at the way a white kid is treated who gets caught with dope versus a black kid. I mean, it's life ruining for a black child, especially one who's perhaps in poverty and can't afford a good lawyer. A white kid who's middle class, not even wealthy, has access to lawyers, maybe not the best lawyers, but good enough lawyers to get them probation, keep your nose clean, kid, and go to college and do the right thing, and you'll be right. The black kid never gets a chance, right? And that was the way it was designed. That was the way it was designed from day one. Atwater admitted this. You couldn't say the N-word anymore. You started saying urban, and you evolved this into the war on drugs, and then this economy grows up around it, where you have the private prison economy, the prison guards union. You have powerful lobbies with a lot of money at stake, a lot of federal money, our taxpayer dollars, going into this economy of imprisoning our own people for nonviolent offenses. And suddenly you've got vested economic interests in this entire war on drugs. So it was sort of a self-perpetuating spiral at that point. But I don't think the economic reasons were the cause. I think they became a perpetuating factor. But back to abortion. Abortion is a very brilliant tactic in a lot of ways, because how easy is it to say killing babies is wrong? How hard is it? How nuanced do you have to be to get to a point where it's like, it's okay to kill a baby, even though we're not really killing a baby, but we have to explain that, right? Like, it's a very hard thing you have to talk around. And it's not that we want abortion,
and I think a lot of us
is worse than having them.
And I think a lot of us would agree that that conversation is important to know where exactly those lines are drawn, and exactly how to keep those things safe and appropriate. And I think the goal is to be legal and safe and rare, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And the statistics prove out that legalized abortion, coupled particularly with birth control, robust birth control measures in the public sphere, reduce abortions way more than making it illegal does. No, I don't think anyone can debate that. And but keep in mind, some of the same people who are pro-life also are anti-contraception.
Can we talk about this too? Why still do we have schools here in the very St. Louis metro area that have abstinence-only sex education through high school? Why is that still even legal? Or should it be? I mean, because I'm to the point where I don't want the state to tell people what to teach their kids necessarily, but also, like, we're just letting all these young people just reproduce unknowingly and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, abstinence only, it does work. You won't get pregnant if you don't have sex.
If that's the strategy, but I mean, how often do those programs in a public school work for their population?
Absolute failures, and abject and documented, and time again. We all know this doesn't work, right? Anybody who looks at it with a momentary critical eye knows that this is a failed program, and it will never succeed because human nature is what it is. So, I mean, I have my theories about what's really behind the abstinence only program. I mean, let's stipulate now that there are some truly zealous, call them religious people, that really believe that, causing allowing other people to sin is the worst thing that they can do for whatever reason, and that using the power of the state to punish people who sin is the right thing to do. That they believe this at the bottom of their heart. I won't get into why I think that's a sick and diseased both theology and philosophy, but suffice it to say that I disagree with it. But you're not going to negotiate someone out of that position. So there's someone who's a true believer. We have fundamentally different worldviews, and I don't believe that the apparatus of the state or the power of the law should be used to support their worldview, and I'll do everything I can to oppose it. And I think many people feel the way I do about that. Then there's the cynics, and there's a lot of them. And I think the Republican Party, and I don't mean the voters here, I mean the politicians, is probably
like the Republican establishment,
right? Is probably 80% cynics. Maybe 70%. Maybe there's 30% zealots and 80% cynics, or 70% cynics. My math is bad, but what drives those cynics? What's the thing? There's two motivators, and they're really the same motivator, just different means to it. One is money, and the other is power, political power specifically. Money is power, but they view this as a way to control or to harness the population, much the same way that Donald Trump views what he's doing as a means to harness the power of the populist movement that wants to overthrow a democratically elected government and put in place a fascist monarchy with Donald Trump at its head. It's all this is about. It's about a bullet train to power for them. And it's a way that they found. Nixon identified this in the Southern strategy. He didn't necessarily, he wasn't not racist, but racism wasn't his thing. He did it because it was politically expedient. It was a means to grab power and to grab support of a very racist population. And to say that that's not true today is to ignore reality. There's still a very racist population. It's not everywhere. And even places that are racist have people who aren't racist in them.
It's not everywhere, but it's a good 30-minute drive from anywhere.
That's a good way of saying it. I mean, and there's been this real rural-urban divide that's crystallized in the last 10, 15 years.
And help me with that. Please help me with that. Because, again, I get questions. A big part of my motivation for the show is to kind of try to be fun and funny, but also to...
You shouldn't have me on.
No, but also to have conversations that I would usually have at the Heavy Anchor, for example, waiting to play that night or something, but we haven't been able to do that, right? So... that's usually when I get this kind of information. So I get questions about stuff like this, and I don't always know the answer. So what is that divide? Because I feel like it's always kind of been a thing, because I have cousins that have grown up in a very rural environment, and then we've always compared to them being more of a urban-suburban environment kind of family. So where does that divide originate, and why is it significant?
Well, I mean, there's always been the town and the city mouse and the country mouse, right? I mean, that's not a new thing.
Is that a book?
Are you kidding? How old are you?
The kids can't read, Alfred. I don't know if you've read the papers.
I read my kids' books on an iPad now. It's like it's all on Kindle.
Listen, don't get me started.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's always been this, the farm versus the city. Like that's always been a thing. And the cities are bigger than they've ever been, even though they're not as big as they used to be. In some ways, they're also bigger. St. Louis as an entity is now spans 4 counties. You had a similar population, on a proportionate basis in 1904 that was in the city limits, what's now the city limits.
Which is like 800,000 people now.
It's in the city limits now.
Yeah.
It's like 350.
Oh, okay. I knew the shape of it in my brain. I couldn't remember if that shape was a 3 or an 8. Like
low.
when it's kind of far away.
It's kind of shockingly low, like how few people actually live in the city here.
Because I feel like it's crowded over here. These bitches always parking in front of my house, and there's somebody.
What is more dense?
There is somebody with a nice old Chevy van, like I would love, like with the windows and the curtains in the back.
Still haven't seen your house.
But it's got, because COVID, baby. We were supposed to have lunch that week. It shut down. And
Southwest Diner.
This guy has his van, and he parks it in front of my house, and I think he sleeps in it. He's got an Alicia's Pizza thing, and he's not out there every night, which is why it took me so long to catch on. But one night, I got out of my car after going to get dessert or something somewhere, out of a drive-thru or something, and I got out of my car, and the radio was on in there, like, loud, or it sounded like a TV or something, and the thing was, like, running, but nobody was in either of the seats. And I stood there for like 5 minutes, but all the curtains were drawn. So he was totally sleeping in that van, but he's not there all the time. So I don't know if he works the block, if he has like it's a lovely neighborhood. If I was going to be sleeping in a van, this is a great spot.
I mean, I think I told you after college, I lived, just south of there in the city. I love the city. We were off of Hampton and right by Pueblo Solis, baby.
That's where I am.
We walked to Pueblo Solis.
I'm at so right across the street is the other place, Las Cantinas or something.
It wasn't there when I lived there because it was like 2002.
Right, I know, but now there's another Mexican restaurant there also. Pueblo Solis is still there.
I'll still just go to Pueblo Solis.
We're right down the street. We're right down the street. You know the snow cone stand that was across the street from Pueblo Solis? Okay,
totally.
I'm like 2 blocks behind that.
Okay, so I was actually north of you. I was in January in Holly Hills.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doxing myself right now. I'm not going to drop my actual ad. I almost told you my address.
I know exactly what your address is.
Oh yeah, we're the blah,
from
blah,
that.
Blah. Yeah.
But I lived 3 blocks away from there, so
if you have a snow cone and you start wandering east, you may find my house. Leave me alone. That's hilarious.
That's Princeton Heights, right?
Princeton Heights is here, and Southampton. I kind of get tagged in both.
You're in Princeton Heights. You're not in Southampton.
Because I looked at a map.
Southampton's on the other side of Watson.
Eichelberger, dude. Eichelberger was the cutoff on the map I saw. But
You might be right, but you're south of Eichelberger, so
no, I'm north of Eichelberger.
Oh, you're north of Eichelberger?
Oh my God, doxing.
So I was south of you.
I mean, the NSA already has a folder. They never got back to me. I keep asking my NSA caseworker to find out how many McChickens I've eaten total as an adult.
So let's take a digression here before I go back into the city mouse and country mouse.
City mouse and country mouse.
Let's talk about chicken sandwiches for a minute, can we? Because what the hell is going on in society with chicken sandwiches? I haven't been to any fast food in like forever.
Still? What are you still talking about?
Chicken sandwiches.
Right.
So like KFC's got a new one. Like the last one I had was right when Popeyes came out with it, and it was good. I did not think it lived up to the hype.
I got it. I got lucky and got it early one day, right when it broke, and then so I was able to wait out the craziness afterwards because I had it. And then since it's been back though, I've had it several times because my mom lives right by one, and so if I'm going to or from her house and I see there's no line conveniently, I'll be like zip, it's worth it even if I'm not hungry, and I get the spicy. I don't even do
of course
sides.
You get the spicy.
Yeah, I get 2 of the spicy usually. I don't even fuck with anything else. I don't do
sides at fast food.
Their
anymore.
soda there sucks. So
I don't ever get soda at fast food.
And I haven't had soda since Saturday, because so I was telling the squad I tested positive for COVID on Sunday.
Yeah, it sucks.
And so but I really haven't had
You look great. You look great.
I really haven't had any symptoms at all. I maybe felt some fatigue for the first couple of days, but I've also haven't had caffeine since Saturday.
Is that a COVID thing? Or is that just a choice?
No, I just haven't gone out since I tested positive early Sunday morning. I didn't want to go to a drive-thru and get my normal Diet Cokes and infect anybody.
Oh, you don't keep 3 cases of it in your basement? Because
no, I've only been keeping 24 cases of La Croix, like we talked about.
Yeah, I have bricks of 30 packs or 36 packs of Diet Mountain Dew because there's no living. It's look. It's poison.
No,
I
that's
know
bad
it.
for your kidneys.
It's bad for everybody.
And the artificial sweetener is bad for your brain.
Look, I get it. It's just an addiction at this point, and I
But
can't
no,
drink
that's the
coffee all
thing.
day.
And I had quit drinking Diet Coke until I started working at the place that I work at now. And when it got stressful, I gave myself permission to start drinking Diet Coke again. And then when COVID happened, I couldn't go into a restaurant or anything. So I would only, my one luxury has been Diet Coke, but I was getting like 8 Diet Cokes a day.
You should just like buy it at the grocery store if you're going to do that.
Well, here's the thing. I should get it in cans from Sam's, but that's really the only way I'll like it. But then I go through ice like crazy.
You got to get yourself an ice maker. It's an investment,
Well,
but it's
and that's
worth
the
it.
thing. I kind of asked for one for my birthday because
It's a good.
my brother-in-law got one for Christmas, and I was so jealous. When he opened it, I had gotten this lovely gift. You saw my sous vide?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Brother, that's a revelation. $129
Everyone
for an hour.
Everyone says it is. I've never been able to do it. I don't
We'll
get
do
it.
As soon as it's safe to have you over, we'll do it because we'll do that. We'll have some LaCroix in my basement and jam.
Some sous vide.
And we'll have a sous vide ribeye. Actually, I totally shout out to my friend Dan. He lives about an hour and a half away from here, and I totally had like a day at his house a couple of times, I think. And definitely once I drove out there. It's only like 90 minutes to where he lives, and we were jamming and playing guitars and talking about pedals and amps and stuff. There it is, the banquet, baby. Yes, girl. Whip it out, Alfred Ludwig. Yeah, my mini fridge is across the room from me, which is
Gotta put it right by your computer.
I gotta
put
move
right
it over
there.
here.
You gotta have it scoot in different distance.
What am I gonna do when I have to pee? Because I mean, that's the most frequent disruptor.
It is the Achilles heel of my setup in that I have to go downstairs.
No, I do have a bathroom.
rickety set of attic stairs. To
yeah,
go to
you
the
have
bathroom.
like the slave quarters. You got to go up
Essentially,
and
yeah.
down it's like the
This was the servant's bedroom, I think.
it was the staircase from Matilda. Do you remember Matilda? And she's got like knives and shit and mops all over the place.
It is pretty gnarly. My mom has fallen down and she's not allowed to come up here anymore because she's old and I love her and I don't want her to fall down my stairs. But it's the Achilles heel, and if I had one choice of a thing I would do, I'd just put a bathroom like in that corner, and then I would never have to leave the room. But
What I really need is like a funnel with a long tube, just that I can kind of, while I'm still running through cyberspace in 2077.
we've all thought about it. I mean, anyone.
What is how come that's not on TV? 1-800 buy this.
I think if you really want it bad enough, you'll go ahead and make it yourself because it can't be that hard to do.
Do you think there's an economy of guys making those themselves? But I want someone to sell me one that's like custom to my situation.
Maybe, Jake, this is a thing that you could actually be an entrepreneur on.
That's not how I want to make my money.
You do know a startup lawyer who could help you set that up.
If that's how I make my fortune, is
there have been stupider fortunes made, I promise you.
if I make my fortune doing 1-800 buy this piss funnel so you can sit at your desk and just piss all the Mountain Dew out of your body constantly. You can just have a constant stream of Mountain Dew and piss.
I actually
straight
wanted
into
to
like a 5-gallon. Okay, so let's talk about it. You think a 5-gallon bucket, but how am I going to pressurize it the right way so that the urine travels safely away from me and into the receptacle?
You've got to have a whole home system at the end of the day because your goal at the end of this endeavor is never to move, right? Like if you have to get up,
I did
you've
just
already
get a really
broken
good
it.
chair. I got the this is a Lazy Boy Big and Tall collection. I got it like open box clearance or some shit on Hulu or something. I don't know where. I don't remember.
A good chair is clear. So
Honey,
speaking of
I had
Lazy
a
Boy,
terrible chair. I had a terrible chair until last week, and I had to put this thing together myself. But it's been so worth it because I haven't gotten out of it except to pee.
On this note, in a summer camp when I was 14, I won a design contest by submitting as my design the super fat and Lazy Boy, which I'm sure would be trademark infringement. I wouldn't be able to pull it off. But the idea was it had the mini fridge in it, and it was essentially a toilet. It was a toilet that and with there was a lot of other accoutrements. There was actually an add-on pack for treads, so you could move around in it. Right. But I won this contest with that. I think I got a bottle of bubbles because it was that kind of thing. But I won a thing on the basis of this discussion that we're having right now. And the whole point was, if you
Here's
have
the
to
thing.
move,
I don't want to shit in it.
that's why you got to plug it into an outdoor system. Like,
No, but I don't want to shit in it.
Well,
Anyway,
you
I
might
don't
you
want
might
to.
be you
I
might
don't
be
want to
the
shit on something that I have to then be around.
you might be the
Call me
demographic
Guys,
for the
in the
basic
chat.
version.
There's people watching this. There's a chat stream here.
Wait, this is a
Call
real
me
thing?
crazy. I don't want to shit on something that I still have to hang out next to.
Well, look, like
It's why you don't want to sleep in the bathroom.
you got to divide this into two different demographics here.
Like,
One
how
is,
drunk do you have to be to sleep in the bathroom?
one demographic is you that doesn't want to shit where he sits all the time and eats and does it. The other demographic is people that don't care about that and would.
My brother would be like that. My fucking brother, I should call him. He was so like, no, dude. You put a USB power strip in there, brother. You get like a bidet suction vac thing.
This
Bro,
is what I'm talking about.
It's really just like it's like an airport bathroom into a shop vac is really all it is.
If it has treads on it, why would you get up?
I mean, if you do that into a shop vac, it would just suck all the waste away from your body. You can have a little hose in there to like rinse out your undercarriage, and then it'll just suck you dry.
You got to have a local containment unit, but then ultimately there's got to be an apparatus where it can make a drop off at some house receptacle.
What if we merged it with the Roomba technology? So here's the thing. So it's like a neoprene vacuum seal bag, like I use with my sous vide,
and the Roomba comes out. And
I
gets
could
it?
make one of these right now. So hear me out. You're my copyright lawyer. This is live on the air. Don't you steal this. Now, so think about this. So you're in this chair and your ass is in this thing. You could just wear like a poncho like I'm wearing now just to cover your front because you're Donald Ducking it on the bottom because you can just
Of course you are. Why would you ever wear pants?
So say you have solid waste you want to excuse from your body, then this chair will rinse you off with like a little bidet system like you just attach to a normal toilet that's common stuff now. It's $150, whatever it is, tushy or whatever. And then that is feeding like an airplane bathroom into a big mouthpiece for basically a shop vac. And when the shop vac fills its bag with your waste that it sucked you dry from, it'll seal itself off and it'll drive itself like my Roomba does to its receiving receptacle. The technology exists. We need larger battery capacity. And Alfred, that's why they won't let us out of Afghanistan. Because we need that cheap lithium ion. There's no way we can ever have this shop vac shit sucker chair that'll keep you from ever having to get up for any fucking reason unless your Postmates delivery guy refuses to come in the house because it's going to suck you clean and it's going to drive itself to refill. I can picture the technology now. If I had $1 billion and a farm, I would have all my engineer friends over here on retainer making this thing right now.
This is where Wally went wrong. They missed the toilet function that should have been.
I think it was in there. I think there was 2 clicks.
But no one was Donald Ducking it. How is that possible? I mean,
I think they had a flap in the back, and I think the chair would move forward and pull your flap with it, and they would just suck you right out your hole. Did we say that?
You did. It's a thing that happened. You might be right. Let's table the Wally discussion.
I think they could. I'm just saying, if we went to the creators of that universe, you know what I mean, those visionaries, and we challenge them on this, I guarantee you they already have an answer. They've thought about it. They answered it for themselves.
They're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, bro. It just sucked it right out of you.
They answered it for themselves so that they could believe in it and carry it forward.
Yeah, you're probably right. The world building
I have a lovely picture on screen of you, so people know who we're talking to.
Is it my firm website profile? Because that's the one you should use. I was 10 years younger when it was taken.
Yeah, no, that's the one. I thought you were gonna tell me not to use it.
No, that's the one. If you're gonna use one, that's the one.
No, that was the first camera. You look good. You look.
I mean,
exfoliated. Are you wearing makeup there?
I was like 32 when that picture was taken.
Good God. It's a lovely tie. It's hard for white men to pull off green.
It's that tie gets me lots of.
That tie was part. It gave you just the right green. It's the light is just good. If the light was too yellow, maybe it wouldn't work.
You got to wear it with the right suit. It doesn't work with like, well, it kind of works with every suit, but blue is better than black in this regard. Anyway. So let's talk about your cyberpunk addiction.
It's not an addiction. I'm just really, I never spend money on games. For years, I told myself I'm not going to buy a console. I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on gaming stuff because it's taking me away from music stuff, right? Well, now I really should not buy any more music stuff. I got to quit buying the music stuff. I have everything I need. I need to spend a little more time using it. But so when I got this new PC, I didn't want to just get this high-powered graphics card and everything just for the live streaming, even though that was my real motivation. Because and my wife was getting her gaming set up also, so I felt permission to get a good monitor like I'm using here.
It's life-changing.
It's just a really immersive experience. And so the only problems I've had with Cyberpunk have been just buggy stuff in the game. And it really reminds me of a game that came out on PlayStation 2 when I was in middle school called Enter the Matrix. It was a Matrix video game that came out when the second or third movie came out. And I remember them saying they really kind of rushed it out. And because they rushed it out, they hadn't finished polishing all of the mechanics of the physics of the environment and whatnot. And you could tell, like, sometimes when you were driving or if you were jumping weird or something, like really weird shit would happen that shouldn't happen, right? And so this game has some of that stuff. And some of it's gotten a lot better as I've been playing it. I hit 200 hours now, so I'm on my second playthrough. I really got to a place where I felt comfortable visiting my natural kind of ending to the storyline, but there's 7 different endings. And so I've kind of done my natural playthrough, kind of done it the way that just felt good to me at the time.
Like
but now,
you being a cyberpunk character as opposed to playing a so
I started with the street kid background story.
It's interesting that's how you self-identify.
Well, it was either Nomad or Street Kid or Corpo. And I
know. I started with Corpo. Shocking.
Well, so my first playthrough was a white guy with a pink beard and green dreadlocks, and he had a real big dick. Like, that was a part of I went with the biggest circumcised dick they had, and it looks good. It's just that good pipe. Did
you get the glitch where he was just walking around with his dick hanging out of his pants the whole time?
Well, I know I got the glitch sometimes where he'll do a T-pose on top of the car completely naked while you're driving. But here's the thing. The game is beautiful, even when the glitches are happening.
The background, I agree. I don't even have ray tracing.
Even when you're driving and you accidentally go through a bridge, the cinematography it's happening live in front of you is crazy.
The environments are really dense.
And I really love the combat. The combat's not quite as accelerated as it could be. It's a little more RPG than it is fast-paced. But it's pretty good. You get used to it. I have a lot of fun with it.
I have about an hour into the game right now.
Oh my god, the tutorial phase is 2 hours.
I got through the VR tutorial and to where it starts to let you do missions. It took me about an hour.
There's a whole the part you're in is like a prelude. It's a prologue.
So, I did all the parts where his corpo life got left behind, and then he became a street guy, whatever, and went through the mission on rails at the beginning, went through the VR training, and I'm now in free roam. So I don't think, maybe the mission trees
you're not in total free roam yet.
No, I can't leave the zone, but
because you're still in the prologue. It gets, oh my god. So I just kind of finished that part for the second time, and that's the reason I wanted to play through again. So my second playthrough, I've been a black female corpo and a version of V, and I love her. She's great. I really am enjoying that experience, and I'm playing now with this understanding of the game and its context in a way that I can appreciate the beginning a lot more, and I'm making opposite choices that I made the first time on purpose to access a different ending.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm still in the playing my natural playthrough, because I'm an hour in, but
it's so fun. It's so fun.
It's my first playthrough. I just do what I would do, and then I think the replay is all right, let's go off and do something. I imagine I will. What's the one that's like a nomad, right? That's probably what my second playthrough would be, because I feel like Corpo and Street Kid probably have more in common, but maybe I'm wrong.
And there's a lot of similarities in the core story anyway, but the backstory, is the first probably 30 minutes of the playthrough and whatnot. It's a really good time. So again, I only would recommend it if you're on a kind of faster PC like you and I are on.
Right.
So I know like my council buddies. I don't know if you had like a PS5.
I've got
Maybe?
a Series X. I would try it on the Series X.
Oh yeah, that'd probably be good.
But my 1S, forget about it.
No.
Don't even go there. It's not what that machine is not for this game.
And so that was the first. I kind of bought that game in order to test out kind of my PC. Like it was the first game I kind of launched on here, and it's been great because my computer handles it great. The game never crashes on me ever. It's maybe once ever.
I haven't had any of the tragic, like really awful experiences, and I didn't even put it on my new laptop that I got because it was on some crazy sale, which does have a 2070. I'm playing on a 980 Ti, but my old computer does have 32, so it wasn't like a slouch to begin with. And I had to turn the settings down a little bit. It's not ray tracing, and but I tried it on 4K. It was too much for it. I had to go back to 1080.
Yeah, I really can't tell. I have some performance indicators up while I'm doing it as for the stream and whatnot. I keep track of my frames per second and whatnot. Especially because I bought this 1 millisecond monitor or whatever.
You got a real 4K monitor.
Yeah, 144 hertz.
I got a $250 4K monitor. So
yeah, this was not expensive. This was maybe that.
Really? That's not bad. I got mine like a year ago. So
I think I got 0% 12-month on my Amazon card or some shit. It's an LG.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you.
What?
0% 12 months. Like, oh, it's free.
It's totally free.
Whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
And oh shit, I got a bill.
God damn. God, I gotta cancel the Postmates.
Meanwhile, now you're a homeowner, so now you're gonna get the magnitude of real expenses versus the piddly little gaming shit that
you know what? I do have to buy a washer like right now.
It's washer. That's not gonna kill you. You'll get through that. My advice is either go basic or go big. Like the in between, there's kind of no point.
Yeah, I would just fix my washer, but it could be the motor. I even took the whole thing apart myself with my buddy, who's a mechanic on those things, a repairman. He kind of walked me through exactly how to take it apart and whatnot, and we troubleshot it.
But in all seriousness, that's not even. I'm talking about structural shit. Like why is there water on the floor of my basement? God damn it! Like I had to have rotor out on New Year's, the day after New Year's Day.
The house I kind of grew up in was like that. It was like there was a constant stream in the basement.
I found out apparently one of the pipes from my sump doesn't exist anymore. So the water that goes into that hole just kind of goes into the ground, and maybe it'll drain, maybe it won't. To fix it, I don't know, $14,000. Maybe.
Because it's like 8 feet underground.
It runs into the fucking chimney because I guess they did it before they put the chimney down because my house was built in 1891. So I don't know when they put shit here, but bottom line is I'm not fixing that. It's just sometimes there will be water there, I guess. And it's okay because it's not a finished basement and it will live with it. And most of the sewage, like all the toilet stuff is on the other side of that break, whatever that break is. So it's not like coming back into there. So that
fascinating.
Right. But that's an everyday thing. You're gonna find this out. You're one of us now.
Dude, you'd be so proud of me. I had the whole bitch apart. I took the front of it off. You had to go up under it with a putty knife and snap these two things off, and then you had to go and undo the top thing, but not all the way because you couldn't undo the cables because you would rip the magnet off and it would never know if it was open or closed again. So you had to prop that up on something. Then I had to undo all the clips all around the ring on top of the two tubs that holds the two tubs together. And then, because you have your inner tub where you put the clothes. And then there's an outer tub that holds all the water.
This all sounds like a punishment to me.
Oh my god, it was fascinating. It's only I could only do it because I've been stuck in my house. That's the only reason I had the patience. Is I have
also you don't have kids.
I also don't have my own children. No,
You have somebody else's children?
No, I don't. There's no children.
Then I don't know why you need to qualify children with my own.
You know what? At work, that's a phrase we use all the time because we all have, our kids at work that we work
work
with.
as a custodian of children. That makes sense,
right? And so
that's that context,
right? I clean the babies, and so that's the conversation. Is at work we will say, I don't have my own kids, so in this conversation, I'm thinking blah blah blah, and you want to pull that experience in because you want to make sure you're not doing something that's insensitive. Because you're working really for families. You know what I mean? So that's just where that phrase comes from.
Unless you're working against them, which I would imagine is some of the time.
I mean, it feels like it sometimes. Especially when we get yuppies like you that want to call up and my son should really be in the program.
You sound like the Jerky Boys.
Oh my God, I love them.
Oh
my God, whenever my uncle and I would drive somewhere, like on a road trip or whatever, and we would always listen to those. He had them on like cassettes, like
absolutely. That's how we did it back in the day, Jake.
They're on Spotify and shit now. Though,
I'm sure they're on everything,
which is so great because like, oh my God, I like the guy. Oh, it's so hard to remember. The guy that buys the flooring that's all broken.
It's been 25 years since I've listened to the Jerky Boys.
I got 40 bricks of tile here and they're all busted.
I was more a fan of Crank Yankers.
Oh, I love that show.
It was fucking great.
If anyone ruined it for me, it was Eminem.
Eminem was on Crank Yankers?
Well, he did like a video with they were in one of his videos and he did like a cameo on the show or something. And
I vaguely remember this.
It just gets on my nerves when people come out of their lane and they just feel like they can do whatever they want because they're famous and they could just intrude like on your
Don't put
thing.
Eminem in a corner. That's not fair.
Like do you, baby? Yeah, I thought he was really funny in Funny People, that Adam Sandler.
I haven't seen it.
Movie with who's the chubby guy?
Yeah.
From Pineapple Express.
Wait. It wasn't Jonah Hill.
No, the other one. Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, yeah.
Yeah. So Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler had this movie about comedians, right? And they're at this party once or whatever, and Eminem is there, and he has this like Eminem's going off on how this guy's totally washed up or whatever, and it was like part of the movie, but it was so hilarious, and so that was cool. But I don't like when he just invades one of my favorite puppet shows on Comedy Central because he feels like he wants to crash the party. That's like Justin Timberlake on Saturday Night Live will just go on whenever he wants. I'm like, you don't work here, bro.
In fairness, Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake can show up on this show anytime he wants. If he walked in here right now,
I'm saying if he's on Saturday Night Live, I'm more inclined to watch it than I would be in a vacuum.
But I'm not even talking about as a musical guest though. Like he'll just pop in.
I know. Like the whole what was it?
And trust me, I'd rather talk to Justin Timberlake than half the people they have working there because I don't really watch that show. But like, I feel like that's been a thing for a long time though. Even when.
But SNL's always had that whole thing going on where there was like,
and now there's like a whole cast of A-list celebrities that just take all the screen time away from the up-and-coming comedians. That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
You're right. Like he hasn't been a cast member ever. He just shows up.
I think he lives in that building or something.
He certainly lives in New York. He's just like, fuck, I'll walk down the street and do Saturday Night Live again, I guess. Which, when you think about it, isn't a bad option if it's on your plate.
I mean, I'm sure they pay him a couple grand every time he pops in.
I think he does it just because it's like, what the fuck else am I doing? It's like, I don't want to be on, I don't even know what the Entertainment Tonight of today is because I haven't watched TV in 20 years.
No, but that's where his audience is. His audience is a sort of aging, educated, white, liberal demographic.
It's my parents.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin is like hip to my parents.
Yeah.
And in fairness, he was brilliant on 30 Rock. Jack Donaghy is one of the best characters ever written, and one of my idols.
He's done great stuff. And he's also done a lot of cocaine. He's done a lot of verbal abuse to his daughter.
That was where I was going. It was like, was he going to be featured on BuzzFeed?
Both of those things can be true. Both of those things can be true. There won't be a person that was alive at the time that won't say they were a fan of Bill Cosby. And of course now, he's a sex monster and he's in jail as he should be. I probably would have shot him in the head, but I'm not in charge. And so,
we don't have time to get into the delineation between where cancel culture is too far and where it's absolutely appropriate. But I think I think we can all agree, Bill Cosby. We're done here. Like, yes, I love the Cosby Show in the '80s. It was the Huxtables were my, the family that we aspired to be like. Bill Cosby was the warm fatherly figure we all loved and wished our dads were more like. Except, nah, not at all. Apparently.
Yeah, and so what do you think that was? Do you think he was just that hypocritical, or do you think he felt a duty to kind of play a certain role, even though he knew he wasn't that kind of guy behind closed doors?
So why can't it be both?
That's what I'm saying it is. I think it is both. But because apparently he was a real pain in the ass. He was really mean to Caucasian comedians behind the scenes that he worked with, I hear.
He was apparently a monster to his wife, too. Like, he was super...
I can only imagine that poor woman, what she must have had to contest with this whole time is crazy. And, so, I'm glad we went there.
Well, we all got to talk about Bill Cosby.
But that's the thing that's so crazy is that both of those things are true at the same time, and it's also like there's times in my life where that's really convenient. Like I don't have to put pressure on myself to pick a favorite band because I can make a playlist with both of them mixed together. You know what I mean? I don't have to pick. But like in situations like that, like people feel like they have to justify what Bill Cosby was later found out to have been doing. Because they want to be a fan of the stuff he did before that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't want to call out anyone by name, but I mean, someone we both play with this week had to justify the name of a song that they wrote because the band that it was based on was apparently in DC this week, or the guy who wrote it or whatever. And it was like, no, I didn't know. I knew he was a shipper kind of, but not really. But don't hate the song because it features him. It's not like glorifying him. These are things anybody can find themselves in. And I have all the sympathy for it in the world. And, it's a complicated conversation around, when is art unacceptable because of the artist? I mean, is the art necessarily more or less valuable because of the person who made it? And I think there are some cases where clearly the only reason certain art is likable is because of the person behind it. But there's certain times where, fucking Hitler could have done it, but it's still good goddamn art. Like it's there's no way around it. And that's not in any way to say that Hitler is acceptable or that I like his art.
Was his art any good? I've never seen
it. I don't think it was. I've never seen any of it either. But my point being, I was just immediately picking out the worst person I could think of, Hitler being the universal and obvious choice there.
Just because he was really an artist. So it could be...
Well, he was.
It could be misconstrued that we knew that and we're into it, brother.
Well, that's not what I meant to imply. I'm talking in the abstract, which is never very illuminating, really. It should be avoided at all costs. Case in point. But this is like I said, this is a rabbit hole about cancel culture. And
Can we go back to the country mouse on the city mouse?
I was getting there.
Good. I want to make sure we didn't lose it.
So, there's you got to think about the country mouse and the city mouse in terms of culture on the one hand and politics on the other, right? And what I think is always been there is culture. And I grew up personally in Platte County, Missouri. It wasn't the country.
How do you spell that?
Platte. It's Kansas City. I lived in Kansas City, Missouri, which is big. Imagine if St. Louis was part of, all of St. Louis County, all of Jefferson County, and a big chunk of St. Charles County, out to like Warrenton, or Warrenton's Warren County, but out to like Wentzville.
That's not Kansas City County?
That's how Kansas City is. Kansas City crosses 3 counties, Jackson, Clay, and Platte.
Oh, okay, got it.
So the airport would have been kind of where Wentzville is. So I lived on this side of Wentzville, and I bussed out to Warrenton to go to high school, if that makes sense, as an analogy.
It's far.
It's fucking far.
That's like, if that's for perspective, that's like 35 miles.
Well, it was actually 17 miles from my house to my high school.
Okay, so I'm thinking round trip is what I was thinking.
Right. I mean, it was legitimately 17 miles via highway. I drove past the airport, the entirety of the airport, the both ways. And
Was
but
it
I mean,
worth it?
no, I don't want to talk shit on my high school, but I did not have a good experience there. The one thing I can say for it was there were some fantastic teachers and educators who really made it better. I have some friends who are lifelong friends who I wouldn't give up for the world, but they're very, very limited in number compared to the people that I would prefer never to see again. And I'll leave it at that. But that we had field parties. Kids would go out of school for hunting, belt buckles, gun racks, that kind of shit in the
Oh yeah.
parking lot. And so I was definitely like my folks moved to Platte County they lived in Queens and worked in Manhattan until about a week before I was born, and they moved to Platte County. So it was a huge culture shock for them. They were not like integrated into that community at all. So I really wasn't integrated in that community. I had one foot in the city and one foot in the country. So, those culture clash, that was a real thing for me growing up. It's a real thing for me now. It's a real thing being in Missouri in general, because we have Kansas City and St. Louis are great cities. They have a lot to offer. They're shat on a lot by the rest of the country, but they are great places to live. They're great places to raise a family. They have a lot of amenities. And you go a half an hour outside of each one of them, and you're in, fucking Dixie. I mean, it's the only way I can say it. And the state is beautiful. There's a lot of wonderful things about the rural aspects of Missouri on a geographic basis. I spent 6 years in fucking Kirksville, so I lived out in the sticks. Granted, it's a college town nominally, but especially in summers, it's not a college town. I mean, you gotta know how to talk to people that aren't like you if you're a city boy and you spend the summer in Kirksville. But the bottom line is there's a whole cultural self-reliance aspect to being in the country for logistic reasons and real mechanical reasons, like because no one's around to help you and you can't just call whatever service person you need to come fix your shit. You got to be self-reliant, and that's a highly and fundamentally valued aspect of being someone from a rural area, is self-reliance and self-governance, and sort of this idea, true or not, that I don't need anybody and nobody should have to need me. We're not necessarily in this together. My neighbors and I are, my church friends and I might be are, but there's 50 of us. There's 50 people in the world that matter, and everybody else who tries to take some shit from me is just taken. And that's a thing that it's easy to get into a mode of thinking about if you're in the country. And if you're in the city, you can't fucking think that way because there's too many goddamn people around you. And if you want to be self-reliant and you want to do whatever you want to do, you're going to get shut the fuck down really fast living in a city. You got to learn to live with people who aren't like you, don't see like you, who don't necessarily, care about what you care about, and who you're going to step on if you don't care about what they don't care about. So you got to, it's a fundamentally different value system. You want to be in the country and hate people who don't look like you, you're never gonna see them. So it's not like you have to interact with them, and you can do that freely, and everyone around you is going to be like, they're okay because they look like me or whatever, and it's just never going to be a real thing for you in day-to-day life. But you can't do that in a city. And St. Louis and Kansas City in this regard are tiny cities. You live in Chicago, you live in New York, Toronto, you're gonna see people from all over the world, with different backgrounds, and you
all over the world.
You can't just be like everybody's got to be like me. You just can't. It's physically not going to happen. So living in a place where you never experience this difference, and you don't have either a need to support others and see how your contributions are vital to the system continuing to function, and also don't benefit, at least in your own eyes, from that system functioning, it's easy to say, I don't need anybody, and I'm not, when you're asking for me to give, you're just taking my shit. And so it's an understandable worldview. Translate that to politics. So if you look at the elections pre-Barack Obama, look at the 2002 Georgia Senate elections versus the map on the Senate elections we had this week.
Okay, and forgive me. I was a child. I was there, but I need you to walk me through it.
I am going to walk you through it. So I wish I had the picture. I would put it on the screen. But Georgia,
I can try to find it while you're talking.
The Georgia Senate election in 2002, where the last time a Democrat won, The map was mostly blue with some very rural islands of red. And the next time a Democrat won, it was a sea of red with the cities, just like you see everywhere else right now. But that wasn't the case in 2002. It wasn't the case before that, because our politics hadn't yet achieved this rural-urban divide.
Are we talking about the gubernatorial election?
I'm talking about the senatorial elections. I'm talking about John Ossoff and Raphael.
No, I'm talking about in 2002.
I'm talking about the senatorial election.
Got it. I got that.
So, I don't know if you can flash it on
Chambers and Cleveland.
That sounds right.
Max and Saxby.
I thought Cleveland lost, though.
Right. No, it looks like that. It looks like 52 to 45.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of the last time a Democrat won, and I thought it was a different. It wasn't Zell Miller.
I could jump to 2008.
No, it was before that. Maybe it was the 90s. Fuck,
96?
Maybe it was 2000.
96. Cleveland won in 96.
Right, and this is a guy who had one limb left after having the other three blown off. And in 2002, they demonized him as being a socialist anti-patriot because he...
Wait, did he really not have any limbs?
He was a war veteran who was, basically maimed, and the Republicans demonized him as not being patriotic enough in 2002, which is why he fucking lost. This was the height of the Iraq War tension in 2002, when the five of us in this country who said, guys, this is a terrible fucking idea. We're told to get the fuck out of this country. What's wrong with you? You don't like it. Get out. You're not patriotic.
Jesus Christ,
you're
had an arm?
Yeah.
Holy God, what a hero.
Yeah, right. And was demonized by the right wing as not being patriotic because reasons. I don't think
because he wanted poor brown people to have health care or some shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because he gave
What
a
is
shit
that
about?
What is that about? I know poor white families who socially are anti Medicare for all when they are the first people I can think of that would be kind of in need of that kind of a program. You know what I mean? Like, is it really, do you think really that's the vision, is that they don't want their fake tax dollars? They get $8,000 back a year because they got 9 kids, but they think their tax dollars are going to poor people that don't want to work?
Come back to what I just said about the rural-urban cultural divide, right?
That's what I'm asking.
That is it. I'm, as someone who lived this, who grew up with it, who spent, the first 6 years of my adult life living in Adair County, Missouri, and never bought into it, but walked among, lived with, worked beside, partied with these people who did, and grew up next to it. There is this idea that I don't need shit from anybody. I'm my own man. I'm an island. I'll stand on my own 2 feet. I'll grow my food. I'm self-reliant. I'm the quintessential American, don't need help from anybody. And anyone who needs help is a leech on me and on society, but most importantly me, because I don't want to have to give for someone else who's not willing to do what they need to do.
And my problem is, aren't a lot of those people also kind of an Uncle Eddie figure where they're kind of a totally capable kind of otherwise dunce that kind of maybe, I know people that have been unemployed for decades because they have one very specific job they do and they kind of can't do any other kind of job for some reason.
Well, can't or won't, but whatever. I mean, so what? I mean, does society really suffer if we give those people, a small amount to eat and have a roof over their head? I mean,
it doesn't bother me.
I have more shit than I need. Okay, like if I had to have slightly less shit I don't need, so somebody else could fucking eat, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I think it was Oliver Wendell Holmes. I'm probably misattributing this quote, but who said something along the lines of, don't you hate paying taxes? Like, no, I don't mind paying taxes. With taxes, I buy civilization. I mean, it's true. Without contributing to something greater than ourselves, we don't have the opportunity to have the things we have. No man is self-made. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a very good line about this. About how there is no such thing as a self-made man.
Governor Schwarzenegger.
Governor Schwarzenegger. I mean the fucking Terminator. That's who I mean. But I mean, this is he's ostensibly still a Republican, but I don't think he probably is anymore. But this is a guy who, espoused all of the right wing values, was more tolerant than the worst parts of his party, but who has compassion for other people, who gives a shit about how people, live, and realizes that, taking everything and giving it to the most wealthy because we've deemed them worthy because they already have a bunch of shit is not a way to raise a society. And God forbid you suggest that maybe those who have more contribute more. You're a fucking communist. That's just it's nonsense. It's what's wrong with this country. It's that knee-jerk reaction to a collective, sort of contribution that we're asked to give, and the rejection that I'm not going to fucking help. Like that's the most American value is fuck you, don't take my shit. And not all of us share it, but it's easy to fall into that trap. And I think much of cultural rural America it's not fuck you, don't take my shit, but it's I don't need anybody.
And do you feel like the elitist establishment sort of festers that agitation, so we fight with each other and we don't pay attention to all their resource hoarding?
I mean, why would you ask a question you already know the answer to?
Because I need you to teach my audience. You're my expert.
I mean, that was the most, it's what we call in law the leading question.
Would you object if I did that in the courtroom?
Only if I wasn't a hostile witness at the time. Only if you weren't questioning a hostile witness. But if you were on direct, I absolutely would.
That's funny.
And I'm not a litigator. I've never been. I've never questioned a witness in court. You're laughing like mockingly, but like anyone
well, it was just funny how you laughed when you. It was just funny how you laughed when you said that. I thought it was totally funny. I thought the laugh was appropriate.
It's mockery either way.
Because I do that. Because I do that thing where, like, because the economy. You know what I mean?
In this economy,
forget about it. Forget about it. So, Alfred.
Jacob.
Take me back to the mouse.
Well,
so, were we done with the mouse?
Well, no. I mean, those are the two fundamental points is, this cultural divide has always existed to some degree. And the political divide is somewhat new. It wasn't, Democrats and Republicans were much more evenly distributed between urban and rural locations as recently as 20 years ago. And for some reason, now there has been this absolute separation between the cities and everyone else. And guess what? The cities have more people. So we're always going to have the numbers in the cities, and in the Democratic Party on a nationwide basis is always going to significantly outpunch the Republican Party. Even in lower turnout elections, 2016, that was true. Like more people voted for Democrats, for president, for Congress, for the House of Representatives, for Senate, than voted for Republicans. More people voted for Democrats in state houses than they voted for Republicans. But those people are so unevenly distributed that the Republicans have set up a system that favors their now rural constituency to such a degree that we are essentially a minority rule country. We talked about this on the last podcast. That we have these minority rule institutions based on the outsized punch that rural jurisdictions have in our representative government. And that's not a situation that can sustain itself. And what you're seeing, what yesterday was, more than anything. Am I getting this wrong? It was yesterday, right? It wasn't. Was it 2 days ago?
No, it was the 6th. It was 2 days ago.
2 days ago. What you saw 2 days ago was this reaction of a population that's realizing it's outnumbered and that it's only going to be more outnumbered as time goes on. And what I fear, and I'm afraid I'm close to calling it a prediction, that we're going to see is that, Trump isn't going to be president. Nobody thinks that's going to happen at this point. What's going to happen is that there's going to be this it's going to be a shrinking minority of the movement even that continues to hold on. This QAnon, which is a fascinating sort of phenomenon in its own right, but this QAnon, true believer core is going to descend into increasingly extreme means of expressing its rage against the fact that it's not on top in society, and it never will be on top. And what you're going to see here, I'm afraid, is what they've seen in Sri Lanka.
This is crazy because this came up in my happy hour today also. I think I was prepping for this conversation because I wanted to talk about this. Is that I think some of the people that we saw in the news on Wednesday, storming the Capitol with their, their costumes and whatnot, I think some of those people are also probably infatuated with the QAnon kind of thing at the very least. And this is the kind of deep internet kind of thread discussion of these leaks coming from one specific user on 4chan or some shit. And
there's been proven to be at least 2 users, right?
Oh, great. Good. I didn't know that. And then, and the whole thing is that there's this like secret war against this elite pedophiles. Within the
and
Trump all of a sudden he's a by day he's this shitty president, and by night he's this holy warrior for the trafficked children or something, and David Spade is wearing an ankle bracelet and can't leave his home or some shit. What is all that?
How did David Spade get drunk?
I swear to God, he is in this. There was a whole thing that David Spade is wearing an ankle bracelet probably because he has a bunch of DUIs, but I think they made it sound like because he was under house arrest because there's this whole they're secretly arresting all the elite pedophiles in Hollywood and Trump's at war for the real America.
Well, I mean, what's more noble than fighting against a pedophile ring, right?
That's exactly the whole thing, right?
If you wanted to paint yourself as like, here's the real reason, we're saving the children. I mean, it's an offshoot of what I was talking about earlier.
Trust the plan. They keep saying that. And the whole thing is like, even if he gets out of office, he's really still doing it. And he's got a whole 3D dimensional chess.
5D chess. 5D chess. Did you read the article? I know I posted it, but
No.
It's about the gamification of QAnon. Essentially, it was like by a guy that wrote LARPs, like basically designed LARPs for people to like get through and solve, and how QAnon is like following that meme or following the sort of rule and structure set, but also like breaking it in a way like you got to keep people like on track, and QAnon is like using it to direct people in ways that they'll find what they want to find in everything, and ignore the shit that they don't want to see. But it's fascinating because it's clearly designed. There are architects behind it, and they captured lightning in a bottle with crazy people. And but where all this leads at the end of the day is, I fear it's very likely we're going to see government buildings. We're going to see more Oklahoma cities bombed. We're going to see churches, schools bombed. We're going to see more shootings that are politically motivated by crazy people who think that they're saving the children or standing up for Donald Trump or what they think is America, because this shit is not going away. Everywhere is now going to be the battlefield, which is perhaps better than the, darkest timeline of Donald Trump winning and creating a fascist state of Proud Boys and fucking Boogaloo Boys to crush the minorities and the liberals. But at the same time, those same brown shirts, whether they're part of the establishment or they're part of this, Al-Qaeda insurgency, they're not going anywhere. And they've got a taste for blood now. They're not going to have a fair fight. They're not going to go toe to toe with the U.S. military, which would just absolutely fucking crush these people. And any law enforcement agency that turned out like it turned out against Black Lives Matter with rooftop snipers and shit, these people would be fucking dead. They're not going to fight that fight because they're at least smart enough to know they can't win that. But they will fight it against children. They will fight it against, religious institutions. They'll fight against old people. They'll fight against soft targets, just like Al-Qaeda does. Just like the terrorists that we shut our fucking country down in 2001 over and never really recovered from. They're here. They're us. And we're going to hear from them in ways that we really haven't reckoned with yet. And I hope I'm wrong. But I think it's.
So you think it could get worse than just storming the Capitol?
I think that was it was the first shot.
Is that maybe what we should consider a good warning that they are that kind of at least that much of a nuisance
If
at the
you
very
haven't,
least.
if we don't recognize that as a willingness to do fucking anything they want to anyone that they think is on the other side of whatever war they think they're fighting, your fucking head is up your ass. They will do. These are people who will have no regard for human life, and will do whatever it is that they think will achieve their means, and their ultimate goal is power, death, and destruction.
And so I totally agree with you, but I think it's important for the audience that we kind of talk about an example of why we know that. Like why we have declassified evidence of why and how the establishment kind of at this point openly has gotten away with stuff like that, and that totally exemplifies their willingness to kind of go there. But what's a good example you think that's mainstream enough to cite?
Well, I can't speak to evidence about current movements and law enforcement participation in these.
No, it doesn't have to be current. I'm just trying to think of like.
Well, I mean, it's history rhyming. Ultimately, I mean, we've seen this play out in other places. You've seen it play out in the Middle East over and over and over again. You've seen it, and a lot of that was in destroyed and failed states. But we have to reckon with the fact that we're on the verge of being a failed state. This country does not work for most people in it, and there is a lot of desperation. There's a lot of there's a calcification of the elite class in this country that has ensconced itself in walled communities that can't be touched. And there's a big chunk of people, particularly in rural America, who have this self-reliant ethos that really resent the wealth and power that has been consolidated in the hands of a very few. And they're willing to take it out on those who are doing better than them, even though they're not probably the right targets. They're a convenient target, and they're certainly the soft targets. So it's the soft targets that we have to worry about. It's the churches, it's the schools, it's the average government workers, it's the symbols of the thing that they think is the oppressor, and they're wrongly guided, because they've been deliberately misled by, let's just call it what it is, the right-wing media in this country and the apparatus of the state, and those who have, not even the state's not to blame, but a portion of the state and those who have captured the state, who have pointed this weapon, much as Donald Trump did 2 days ago at the Capitol, at the liberals or, immigrants or whatever, the other, to say it's not your fault that we've taken everything and you don't get any of it. It's those people's faults who we've also taken from, but fuck them, not us. It's Mitch McConnell. It's fucking Ted Cruz. It's Josh goddamn Hawley, that piece of shit. It's people like that are really behind this, that are really responsible for it. And Josh Hawley is a great example of someone who is a total cynic, who has zero values and is willing to, use this angst, this anger and frustration and suffering for his own personal gain, regardless of how many people are hurt or killed because of it.
So what's his motivation, do you think, to
Power.
go? Josh Hawley's
Power. It's always been his motivation. He's a fucking cynical, lazy, ladder climbing piece of shit. I mean, that's all there is to it. He's beneath contempt. And the only thing he wants is to be the one in charge. And he doesn't give a shit who he hurts or
so what kind of power does he gain by
he wants to be president. That's his goal. He is laser focused on being elected the president in 2024. That is
2024. You think that's soon?
Absolutely. When he stopped teaching at my alma mater, who needs to fucking disavow him, or I will never give them another dime of my money.
You gave them any money ever? Don't tell me.
Not that much that they're going to stop over me or change their behavior over me. But I don't think I'm alone in that. He's a fucking embarrassment to Mizzou. But when he quit doing that to be the AG for 2 years and didn't do fucking thing, promising he wasn't doing this to be a ladder climber, literally openly saying, I'm not doing this job to get to a higher position.
That's weird,
I want to do
because
this
I don't
job.
think I would have accused him of that if he had already brought it up.
Well, I mean, that was it. It was like preemptive, like, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do precisely what I'm going to do. And he immediately ran for Senate, and he won because Missouri's a red state. But a lot of it was Jack Danforth supporting him and pushing him, and getting certain donors to come out and say Josh Hawley's the guy. This kid's got a lot of promise. He was a big law litigator who basically, his one contribution to legal scholarship was making it so that Hobby Lobby didn't have to fucking pay for birth control.
Right.
Nobody else did either. That was the case he worked on as
that's where I know him from. Yeah.
As a young bullshit associate, he probably fucking did discovery. He didn't try any fucking maybe he did, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know what those words mean, but that's talking big lawyer shit. I like that.
But then he became a professor of constitutional law, like he taught con law.
That motherfucker.
Well, and then in this week has all these vapid protestations about about number one, like, this is the venue where we get to overturn the election. Like, no, it fucking isn't. You know better than this. He knows better. And then he gets his Simon and Schuster contract canceled, rightly, and complains about how it's a fucking violation of the First Amendment for a private actor to not want to do business with a piece of shit seditionist. He knows damn well that's bullshit. That's just the kind of shit that he does. He's a piece of shit.
So you think he's laying a foundation to run on the election was stolen from us in 2020, and so I want to be president in 2024 so we could take back the White House?
For those of you listening and not on video, I'm nodding furiously because it's obviously what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's obviously been gunning for 2024 from day one. Everyone has called it. He's transparent. It's why he was the first one when Mitch McConnell was like, don't fucking do this, guys. It's going to go bad. This is bad for us. We can't do this. He was like, nope, I'm going to do it. And then Ted Cruz had to jump on the train because God forbid somebody was a bigger piece of shit than Ted Cruz. So he had to be just as big a piece of shit as Josh Hawley. But at the end of the day, it was all political posturing. But I don't think even he saw the Capitol invasion happening. And I don't think he saw how quickly and how tarnished his brand would become by that. And so he miscalculated.
You mean
Josh Hawley? Yeah, his speech, if you watched him talk, he's like, this is the venue where we get to overturn the elections. It's not by invading the Capitol. It's by doing something that's unconstitutional in the Senate. And that was his whole speech. It was like, don't be violent. Just let me rig the system. But, either way, the result is the same in his view. And it's totally cynical. He knows better. He's a Yale and Stanford educated lawyer. He knows damn well what the Constitution says. He knows damn well what the Senate's role is. And all of this was just posturing. It was just to capture a piece of the base that I think he now actually has a better command of, because Trump is fallen so far in the last 2 days that Hawley actually is probably in a better position to take the nomination in 24 if the Trumpists win. There's going to be a civil war in the Republican Party in the next 4 years.
And what does that mean? Like intellectually, culturally?
Yeah. But I think frankly, Trump demonstrated they don't have the numbers without his people. And what his people liked was the hate and the suffering and the cruelty. And Hawley will exploit that hate and suffering and cruelty. Whereas, I think the more honest politicians, the Mitt Romney is never going to be the nominee of the party anymore. Like, and by Mitt Romney, I mean anyone like him.
Because he's not like gross enough.
Well, that's right. He's a fair, reasonable person, at least in moments. Whereas Trump and Hawley, Hawley has zero principles and will say whatever it is he thinks that the worst elements of his electorate want to hear. And Trump did it just because he was Trump. And that's why he was loved, because he pissed the right people off. He hurt the right people, except he didn't. He hurt all the people. So that's your feel-good moment about U.S. politics right now.
No, I'm just glad I figured the Hawley thing out. You know what I mean? I hadn't been read into that.
He is the worst of the worst. And he's dangerous because he's very smart.
And he's dangerous!
Hey, I'm still going through puberty.
Yeah. So no, that's good. Hey, thanks for phoning it in for me this week. I mean,
I literally did.
Very informative, and I didn't know you had all this pent up. You really need to get some kind of a constructive hobby, like just build a shed. from just whittle the wood yourself and then build a shed if that's what you need to do. Because
Yeah.
I didn't know you were harboring all of this. I feel like Miss Cleo. You should see me right now. It sounds like you're calling because I just have a picture of you that says on the phone with Al Ludwig, and I'm sitting here with my incense burning and just listening to you talk. Like I feel like Miss Cleo. Like you called 1-800 read my mind.
I think that those services offered a very similar function back in the day, where it was like just let people talk about their problems. Like, I'm listening, I'm here for you, and you're paying $3 a minute.
We could take calls on this show, I think.
You're the technology guy. You figure it out. You could probably just bring people into the Zoom.
I don't want to be the technology guy is the thing. I need to get a technology guy. I can't have any kind of guy this week. I'm on quarantine.
Is that why Joe is not a participant tonight?
Absolutely. I won't let him come over because
he doesn't have a Zoom machine. He can't phone in.
He felt awkward doing. He didn't want to. He felt like he would be a burden or something, and I told him to spend the time with his family or his girlfriend or something because I can't leave the house. So he has to gallivant on my behalf. He's been all over town.
I'm glad you gave him permission.
Yeah, he's been all over town. I told him, hey, go get yourself something nice, Toots.
Well, I miss him. I miss you, Joe.
He's handsome, too.
So should we end on a lighter note?
The 12-year-old DJ that hosted a rave in the school bathroom.
That kid's my hero, man.
Did you get that photo I sent you?
I did. I knew what it was when you sent it.
We don't deserve him, but he's the hero we need right now.
That's right.
That's the level of innovation. That's kind of what cyberpunk is about. It's about creating meaning in this post kind of apocalypse we've merged with technology environment.
I wouldn't have tied those two things together, but there is probably a correlative factor between raver 12-year-old kid in school bathroom.
He
and
wants
Cyberpunk
to be a rave DJ, so he is going to do that where he knows to do it. He doesn't get to go out. There's no club open. He can't go to an open mic even. All the mics are closed. He's in the bathroom. They got good acoustics. He's got a good Bluetooth speaker he can hook up to his little Pioneer board here. He's got a Samsung laptop. He's working it.
What I want to know, because I was unable to view any video that showed one way or the other, but were there other kids in the bathroom when he was
I didn't
DJ?
see a video.
That's I this is the part I really am curious about. Like, was it a dance party rave in the school bathroom where this genius kid who should probably win several awards?
I mean, 12. If you're 12, you're like in 6th grade, 7th grade.
I've got a 12-year-old son. He is not setting up raves in the school bathroom.
What grade is he in?
He's in 7th grade.
Okay, so 7th grade. You're not dancing at a rave because you're not doing Molly at 9 a.m. in junior high. Probably not. But you go and you like laugh and giggle because there's lights and music in the bathroom, and you take a picture for your Snapgram.
Absolutely.
Insta chat.
My son goes to an all boys school. I'm sure they would have all been in the bathroom. It wouldn't matter. It's just this is happening now.
Yeah, I'd be in there taking pictures, laughing. You know what I mean? For the talk.
Somebody needs to answer this question. Was there a dance party, or was it just this kid having a rave with nobody there in the bathroom? And I'm not sure which is more impressive.
Yeah. Well, that'll be our homework for next week.
Who's your guest next week?
I think I want to have Caroline and Buddy back on, both of them together for the full time. And now that we've got more of this Zoom technology kind of figured out as well.
Well, whatever you did to switch up the feed here,
I switched it to my PC. So I got frustrated and I turned my Mac off completely because
I think I wouldn't fuck with the Mac down the road.
I'm just gonna use the audio from the live feed because guys, it's guerrilla warfare out here. This is how we do it. I am the operation right now. I was going to have my wife on just to yell at me about bringing COVID to the house because I got it from one guy.
Oh, you know where you got it?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I don't go anywhere. I mean, I go to
somebody who came over, or was it somebody you went to?
No, I went to, a music thing to work on something with some dudes, and then, turns out 2 days later, one of them had tested positive, but then I haven't really had any symptoms, so it's been really crazy. I've just been kind of tired, but I've also been off caffeine, like we talked about, just to recap.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So I don't
For
know.
those of you listening, just tuning in, Jake is no longer on caffeine.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. I've been trying to stay hydrated. You know what I mean? And I also haven't been going spreading my germs to drive-thrus or anything. So I've been eating different. I had some lovely barbecue from a local joint. Shout out Smoking Barrels Barbecue on Kings Highway. Not a sponsor. I would love a food sponsor. I would love for our first sponsorship to be a food. We keep talking about Lion's Choice. We haven't reached out to them. But you know what? They're very receptive. One time I complained on their app about a turkey and Swiss I ordered, and they gave me 2 free ones later. Like, they called me on the phone and were really nice about it.
Well, I mean, you can't really say no to turkey and Swiss.
No, you can't.
So next time I would like to plug, if you have me back, which
Yeah,
I'm being
please,
presumptuous.
anytime.
But next time, with your permission, I would like to plug a product. I'm not going to do it tonight because I don't have it. But
is it like is it some kind of lube?
It's not. It's actually a book that I didn't write.
Oh, good. Yeah,
So
you also name dropped a sweet article earlier that I'll try to pull to put in the thing. I didn't pull it up because I'm only one dude.
I'll post it to
tweet it at me or some shit.
No, I'll post it to the Facebook feed on this.
Oh, great. That's a really good idea. Yeah, I'll be on a feed there. I'm going to wrap this up real quick if you want to hang for a sec.
I'll hang.
All right, guys, that's another episode of Jacob V Weekly. High five. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Google, whatever. You can also find original music by Jacob V and Too Deep on all of your music platforms, new from both coming soon. Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer. You can bang it. Exclusively on Bandcamp, you can find music from my old band Battlestag. I love those guys, and that's kind of the only place that exists. You can follow me on Twitter at Malachi Envy, on Instagram at Jacob Allen V. I also curate monthly playlists since May. I have one for each month on Spotify. Search for Jacob V's favorite songs, and you'll see all of them there. We did it. Be safe. High five.